This week, we are interviewing another industry icon. Welcome to the show where we tackle the tough questions submitted by installers, estimators, project managers, ICT personnel, and even customers. We are connecting at the human world. We are connecting at the human level so that we can connect the world. If you're watching this show on YouTube, would you mind hitting the subscribe button and the bell button to be notified when new content is being produced? If you're listening to us on one of the audio platforms, would you mind giving us a 5-star rating? And if it's not a 5-star rating, just let us know what we can do to make this a 5-star rated show. Those two little steps helps us take on the algorithms so we can get this message out, so we can educate, encourage, and enrich the lives of people in the ICT industry. Thursday night, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. What are you doing? We do a live stream on TikTok, LinkedIn, Facebook, where you get to ask your favorite RCDD, well, that would be me, your favorite installation, certification, estimation, project management questions, and even career path questions. But I can hear you now, Chuck, I'm driving my truck home at Thursday night at 6 p.m. I can't drive and watch a video. They are recorded and they're put on the website at letstalkcabling.com so you can watch them at your convenience. And secondly, while this show is free and will always remain free, if you would like to support the show, you can support us through Patreon. You can support us through the QR link that will be on the screen, where you can buy me a cup of coffee. You can even schedule a 15-minute one-on-one Zoom call with me after hours, of course. We're also still looking for a corporate sponsor. So if your company is aligned with educating, encouraging, enriching the lives of others, give me a call. Let's see if we can work something out. So as I mentioned, I haven't done a show on industry icons in a while. And it's not because there isn't a lack of industry icons. It's just Chuck's been busy. And this one's been boiling in my mind for a while. And so I was at a BICSI conference, the last one I went to, and I came across Jeff Beavers. How you doing, my friend?
Hey, I'm doing well. You know, with technology, I always say we design technology. I just don't always know how to use it, you know? Hey, I'm doing great. Glad to be here.
It's funny. I always say we work in the communications industry, but we don't know how to communicate.
Exactly.
So, Jeff, why don't you, for those people brand spanking new to this industry who don't know you, give us the 15-second, who is Jeff Beavers RCDD OSP?
Yeah, Jeff Beavers RCDD OSP. Boy, this pathway started in 1988 as a 19-year-old when I enlisted in the U.S. Air Force. And, they pretty much choose what the Air Force needs, and just by good fortune with my scores and just opportunity in life was selected to become a cable splicer, and went through tech school at Shepherd Air Force Base. And through that, a lot of people that I worked with in the Air Force, it was a job. Not everyone stayed in it. But for me, it's been since 19 years old and today. It's always been something new. It's been fulfilling. I've always had a career field. So I've had the opportunity to do outside plant construction, splicing, maintenance, operations, design, engineering. And then today I'm with the National Electrical Contractors Association with a focus on network integration and services. So I'm very glad to be in this career field, and I'm glad to be here today.
I'm glad you kind of mentioned that some people thought it was a job, because I literally just did a series on a job versus a career and how they're similar, but they are way different. They are way, way different. So before we get too far along, I want to get the most important question out of the way first. Kansas City barbecue or Memphis barbecue?
Of course, me being from Kansas City, on the Kansas side of the metro, we're going to claim that that's the headquarters of global barbecue right there. If you want to learn anything about barbecue, it's the American Royal. That's great. It's fantastic. I love the dry rub. I mean, anyone can make a sauce and dump it on a barbecue, but you got to do it right. If it's good without sauce and it just falls off the bone, that's Kansas City barbecue.
Yeah. When I saw on your LinkedIn profile you're from Kansas City, I was like, oh, I got to ask that question. Funny story. I taught a class in Kansas City once many years ago, and I love barbecue. I do my own barbecue here at the house and stuff. And whenever I go to some new place, I always try to go to a barbecue place because I'm always looking for ideas. And I was in Kansas City, and the local rep says, "Oh, you got to try this restaurant." I don't remember the name of it. I said, "Not a problem." So I went there and ate that night, and then I drove to the next city to teach class. Well, he was at the next class as well, and he goes, "Hey, did you eat at that place last night?" I was like, "Yeah, I did. It was really good." He goes, "It burned down last night." I was like, "Wasn't me. I didn't do it. I didn't do it. I left in perfectly good shape. It was still fine."
Well, Truck, what's your preference? Is it all the above?
I love Kansas City because it's a brown sugary base. I love
Yeah,
Memphis. Not a big fan of the Carolinas. And I'd lived in Texas for a little while, so I'd be disowned by my Texas friends if I didn't even say that I did like
sure.
Texas too. But I think Kansas City and Memphis are my two go tos.
Yeah, like you, I like to do it myself. I dabble in it. Let's put it that way. I've got a Frankenstein smoker. It was an old propane thing that I welded up a box. I do my own, and I like the dry rub, and I like it just. Hey, I'll tell you a secret. I'm not gonna. I kind of cheat a little bit. I can't. I don't have the patience to sit there like a old school, like the tried and true way. Where you sit there overnight. I'll smoke it, but I'll finish it off in an Instapot. You get the smoke and it just falls off the bone, and you get to eat it faster.
It's funny you mentioned that. You can tell where you rank with me in my hierarchy of friends on how I make the barbecue for you. If I make it in my Instapot, that means I care enough about you that I'll let you try my secret recipe. But if I smoke it for you on the grill for 12 hours, dude, I would go to hell and back for you.
A quick funny story about one of our other colleagues, which you know very well, Dan Munson, known for his Leviton putting on a show and barbecuing. I was asking for tips one day. I said, "Hey Dan, I need some tips on cooking and smoking." He said, "I've got this." He asked me what I had at the time. I had a propane grill. I said, "First off, get rid of the propane." So anyway, that's a Dan story. It is great.
Yeah, yeah. The only argument I've ever gotten with my wife, she wanted my barbecue recipe. I was like, "Yeah, no, no." She's, "I'm your wife." I was like,
Not
"No,
even your wife. Wow.
no." And then one day when I was making some barbecue, she sat over top of me and she literally watched me put it together. So she wrote it all down. She goes, "But what if your kids want the recipe after you're gone?" I said, "Then they should have come visit me."
That's true. Because once she gets it out and the ladies at the church potluck find out, they're gonna,
Yep,
you'll see your recipe at a potluck.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So let's move on. Who is NECA?
NECA, the National Electrical Contractors Association, based out here in DC, 1201 Pennsylvania Avenue. They've been around for 120 years, right? I mean, they're like the big brother of communications, and they represent members in all 50 states and everywhere in between, and IBW contractors, whether they're doing the transmission, distribution, traffic control, and low voltage. It's a big, low voltage is a big umbrella term, but it's really not that. It's limited energy, voice, data, video, sound, and comm. It runs the gamut of terminology throughout the U.S. So if it delivers power or signal, we could design it and build it and maintain it.
Gotcha. So big NECA has almost said BICSI. NECA has a lot of offerings, right? One of them is education, right?
Right.
So what kind of education benefits does somebody get from being a NECA member?
Well, Nika, let's talk about education from being, let's start with the apprenticeship level, because I think that might open a door to discussion about the gap in trades that we have in America, decades in the making. If you were to go to a high school graduation and said, "Hey, Chuck is the recipient of a $250,000 work study program from the IBW," parents would be going, "Wow, I never knew about that." So for us, it's the training. It's like if you're like an electrician, whether it's residential or a commercial, that's like typically 5-year apprenticeship, paid apprenticeship, and the telecommunications or sound and comm. We're trying to define really what we do, make it easy. Often that's a 3-year formal training, paid apprenticeship program. So it starts there. We think we have the best training around. Hey, let's not just safety, but it's a lot of the soft skills that they aren't getting, right? How do you write an email in a corporate world, right? How do you learn to be a professional in front of the client? Because look, the salespeople get the work, but it might be your workforce that's out there is the reason why you don't get a call back, or why you do call back, because of their professionalism. So a lot of those soft skills are taught there.
Oh, nice.
How to write an email, how to respond, how to control your emotions. That training and mentorship is huge.
Right.
Right.
No,
And then also working with, hey, there's there's 5 generations of the workplace, and how do you all get along? That
exactly.
coupled with
Exactly.
technical skill is
Yeah.
huge. But then we also engage in, ongoing education, as we all do, and either go through ad hoc training, like at a BICSI conference, or we have our own conferences and conventions and webinars. So, man, for us, Chuck, it's like the change is constant and rapid. So it's the same challenge we have to stay abreast. And there's
Hmm.
so many methods these days, and really, it could be overwhelming, but it's easier than back in the day. Let's say back in the day, 20 years ago, you had to leave work and go somewhere, and that was a big investment for your employer. Now it's
Right.
mobile. You read it, you get newsletters, you can see YouTube, but there's Harvard lectures on YouTube for
Yep.
free.
TED conferences, all that stuff.
All that stuff, and it continues to the technology, continues to evolve to where it's more immersive. Even that virtual engagement. I mean, seems like an oxymoron to do virtual hands-on, but that's
Right.
that's the
Right.
progression.
So let me ask you this, because you mentioned the apprenticeship training program, and forgive my naivete, my
Yeah,
not knowing. Is that the same as the joint apprenticeship training thing, or is
yeah,
that something?
it's through that National Joint Apprenticeship Training Centers. Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, because a lot of people don't know this, but I was a union member for a while when I worked for a large uh, low voltage contractor in the Blue Bell area of Pennsylvania.
All right.
And one of the things I will say is, because one of the biggest things you hear all the time is union or non-union, and I'll tell you this: the union really invests in training for their people. They really do, and I wish the non-union side would be on par to what the union does, because for as far as training their apprentices, that's where they do fall down. You can't argue their training program. You just can't. You mentioned events and meetings. Is that kind of like similar like the BICSI meetings?
Yeah, so we do that is one of them. I mean, last year NECA had over 140 meetings and events, whether it's a safety seminar or safety leadership training, or like last year we had the first ever NECA BICSI Summit. So that was a collaboration, and really focused. There was some technical education tracks, but then there was also tracks on like leadership. You know, how do you again work with different personalities and 5 generations of the workplace? How do you all work together to find a solution? And real quickly, what I found out when we working with the IBW and the apprenticeship and the good training is I liken a lot of it to what I found out in the Air Force, that camaraderie. Because Chuck, you'll know this. Every local seems to have their own logos and culture
Mm-hmm.
and their patches, and they exchange those, much like you do with the Air Force. Every squadron unit has their own patch and personality. I mean, you all work for the mission, but you all have your local. It's very close knit that I'm finding.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So the NECA, is it only open to electrical contractors? Is it a membership program like BICSI is, or is it companies joining NECA?
Oh yeah, NECA. Yeah, it's companies join. It's a trade association, unlike BICSI, which is for
Individuals.
individuals.
Gotcha. One of the things that I really liked is you guys have that safety meeting app. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, the safety meeting app. I think it continues to build on this safety culture. I can recall every corporate. Um, Not all of them have an established safety program, but they're always looking at this things such as slips, trips, and falls. So you have your corporate safety culture, but then you have the culture that follows you out to the job site. lockout, tag out, your 10-hour OSHA, your annual refreshers, lockout, tag out. I mean, if you're working at a substation, you're working with RF safety, right? Flame resistant clothing. How you touch the padlock on the gate, right? You touch it with your back of your hand in case it's energized. It's not going to grab hold of the thing, right? Just those things that are very specific to an industry, right? And, talking about 5G and your approach distance, are you putting cable in the power space? And all those things are very specific to our industry because, as you know, I mean, whether it's electrical or communications, I mean, telecommunications is in every industry. And so it's not just learning new technology, but it's unique safety requirements for every industry. So that safety conference is among one of the well attended and very rewarding. It's informative. Put it that way.
Yeah. So electrical contractors have been getting more and more into low voltage. Do you find that trend is still more and more getting into low voltage, or is there still a separation?
There is a separation, but oftentimes the same contractor has two divisions, right? And oftentimes that separation, those lines are being blurred with convergence, right? With PoE and power bring an application on the data network. I mean, those lines are blurring. So I would say roughly about half of our members are doing low voltage of some sort. You and I grew up in, we think of ICT as the voice data video cabling, but we're talking the realm of IT and OT. A lot of them have been doing controls, SCADA systems, nurse call, access control, all the stuff that the OT stuff is typically bolted down. But with that IT and OT, it's converging onto the data network. So again, those lines are being blurred from is it electrical or is it low voltage, or well, it's a little bit of both. Right. So there's a need for collaboration because there's so much work and cross training and learning to do each other's skills.
Yeah, I don't want to say exactly how old I am, but I'm old enough that when I first got in this industry, you had contractors who did just telephony, contractors who did computer cabling, and other contractors who did video, and nobody did all three of them. And now you've got everybody doing all of them, and it's all coming down to just it's less and less types of cables. It's becoming, like you said, it's becoming blended, and it's becoming even easier for most people to do.
No, you're absolutely right, Chuck. I just drafted an article that I'm working on with NECA's electrical contractor magazine. It's about convergence. And I talked about the early days where just focusing on IT, and you're absolutely right. Voice, data, video. It was separate, partly because the culture. The phone company did everything, and you had the cable company, and you had your local IT staff did the data cabling because it was still new and raw, and so it was for an end user to order up services. It was unnecessarily complicated.
Yeah, because they had to call three different contractors. And
right.
If something happened, it was always that other contractor's fault. No, it's that contractor's fault. Or, now it's all blended. It's easy. It's one call. Everything's handled all the way through.
You're right. I mean, I can recall conversations with an end user that say, well, why do I need to pay for new cable? There's an open jack right there. It's like, well, it's not our jack. That's the phone company, or that's the
phone
data
company's jack. We can't touch that because if we do, then there's going to be a huge issue with that. Right?
So with convergence, we saw that, right? I mean, it was different companies, but the cable didn't care. If it's category 6, it didn't care if it's voice, data, video, analog, key system, PBX, or whatever. Yeah. So that was early adoption of convergence.
Yeah, I've said this on more than one show. I'm kind of sad that I'm at the end of my career because there's so much cool stuff coming down the pike right now. And it excites me. It just makes me want to keep going until I'm 95 years old. I don't know if I can physically do that, but just there's so much cool technologies coming out, and stuff's even blending even more, which kind of makes, because you talked about being able to talk to different people within a company, right? But that on the flip side of that, another soft skill is being able to talk to other trades, right? A low voltage person being able to talk to an electrician being able to talk to HVAC being able to talk to the low voltage guy, because there's always been a little bit of I don't say animosity, but a little us versus them mentality. But we're all working towards that common goal, and that's, I think, one of the soft skills that we as an industry could definitely improve on. You know, what
Yeah,
are your
for
thoughts?
sure. For sure. Talking about, let's just look at PoE and PoE lighting and electrical versus the low voltage. I've been hearing reports that some places the ceiling contractors putting in the fixtures, the PoE luminaires. And we're saying, no, that's really an end device, just like a access point or a display. That fixture is more than just placing it in and putting some wire on there. So even that, among all the trades, we need to get better control over that, for
Right.
sure.
What's your wish list for where if you could snap your fingers and the industry change overnight to something that you would want? What do you think that would be?
Yeah, for me, it's worker competency or licensing, which oftentimes is a bad word, but look, our industry is almost like the Wild West without any licensing, or a license that still goes back to 1995 when there were just telephones and fax machines. At a time where, think about this, Chuck, in 2020, I can't remember who quoted it, Peter Diamandis, maybe a futurist, that talked about the next 10 years are going to see more progression than the previous 100. At a time where there's a workforce decline and a lack of requirements for competency to install this cabling that now is delivering power, right? And so we're talking bundle sizes, the current carrying capability of connectivity and the cable and the cabling, right? And then workmanship. And so it's really getting a handle on that, because there's so much work going on, whether it's inside or even outside. Like, you can go anywhere in any city, and there's a lot of fiber going up. A lot of it's falling down, or it's you could say clear NESC violation, and this is the stuff that they're going to put autonomous vehicles on the network. So all these new applications on the network, and we're still trying to get a handle on the technical competence of the workforce. So if I could do the one thing, it's that, and it's a huge undertaking, because you're involving the authorities having jurisdiction, states want to get into that. At a time, I'm hearing some states, BICSI ran into this a few years ago with let's say the state of Louisiana. They were challenging the need for all certifications, whether it's a BICSI or a dental hygienist, right? And so it's a huge problem to me with the new applications, and it's nonstop because our broadband appetite is insatiable.
I'm on all the social medias. I'm on TikTok and Instagram and LinkedIn and everywhere else. There's a lot of low voltage people on those platforms that they're hungry. They want to learn. They want to learn. More than one time, I've seen a post go up in a group, and it'll say, "Hey, I just completed this install today. Critique me." So they're out there. They're out there. What we got to do is we got to nourish those people, but then we also got to address the other side of that equation. Is there's always those what I call negative Nellies, right? There was a comment on a Facebook post the other day. What is it with you low voltage people always posting pictures of your work? Like, people are proud of their work, and
For
the only
sure.
way you can learn is to put it out there for someone to critique you, right? Pain is a powerful teacher. Put it out there, let someone critique you, as long as they don't come at you from the wrong point of view. But they say, hey, look, you did this good, you did that good, but next time maybe try doing this, because that's actually the correct way to do that, right? There are people out there hungry for knowledge, and I think people like me, old boomers, we struggle with that because they learn differently than we did, right? So that's
Yeah.
one of the reasons why I did the Let's Talk Cabling podcast, because it forced me to get out and get in touch with those people, because there's a lot of people hungry for that knowledge. Are you finding the same thing with through the educational program stuff, that there's people out there hungry for knowledge, or have you guys increased in your educational offerings for people wanting to participate in it?
Yeah, there are people hungry for knowledge. Hey, Chuck, there are always going to be those people that are passionate about it, which is why that's their life's work, and they want to showcase what they do. And then, hey, pick it apart. I'll learn something new. Like, for example, I just moved my daughter and son-in-law on base at Tinker Air Force Base. And I can remember when we moved from base to base and we had an inspection on that house. I mean, I'm taking a toothbrush out and I'm cleaning the windowsill. I'm saying, and so when you get an inspection, I'm hoping that they better look at the work that I put into it, you know. And when they don't, I'm let down. So that's why they showcase their work. Hey, I want to find something,
right.
And then because I put my passion into it.
I would rather find somebody passionate about their work, willing to learn, than somebody says, I've got all the certifications, but you can't teach me nothing.
For sure. You know, that old saying is like, you can be in the industry 40 years with 1 year experience. You just repeated it, right?
Exactly right.
Or you could play golf for 20 years and still be a bad golfer. So there are people that are passionate about it, who are hungry for knowledge in any format that they can get. And there are some that it's a job, not necessarily a passion. And so we have to deliver that. Sometimes they're forced to it. Chuck, you've probably had this before, like in a classroom. Say, hey, tell me your story. Why are you here? Because my boss made me come here. You know, there's that.
Yep.
But sometimes it clicks. But in the very least, it may not be their passion, but there's something that there's still a pass-fail criteria in our industry, and they have to learn it.
Yep. Let me ask you this. Let's say that you're out walking the street and somebody sees you wearing your NECA shirt, right? Some 18-year-old kid fresh out of high school. And you say, that sounds interesting. What advice would you give them if they want to get into this industry?
Yeah, I would say that don't walk, but run to the apprenticeship hall and sign up, because it's a very rewarding career field. And I think that it's a best kept secret among our youth and adults as well. And I say, by the way, it says electrical, but if you want to work on the cloud, 5G, fiber optics, the new tactile internet, convergence, right? All those things. I mean, imagine the esports is growing popular today. There's a large amount of technology in esports programs. So so the kids they're tech savvy, not aware that there's a very rewarding, well-paying career field. And so, yeah, you give them the little speech. Hey, you could be making a couple $100,000 over the next 2 or 3 years, right?
Without having to go $100,000 in debt.
At debt, exactly. And it's a marketable skill that's going to take you through the rest of your life. And a lot of our members, Chuck, they started out as apprenticeships, as an apprentice, but now they're business owners. Mm-hmm. There's a path to that. So it's not just it may not be the path to ownership, but there could be also a career progression from the field to a project manager, or you take a design path, because a lot of our contractors also do, they do engineering and procurement and construct.
Gotcha. So I got a question for you. On your profile page, you have on there doing the 118s to connect the world. What the heck does that mean?
Oh yeah, the 118. That's when I was an airman at my first duty station. They said, I'm fresh out of tech school. I thought I knew it all, probably like any 19-year-old, mm-hmm. I'm going to show these people how it's done. So the NCOIC, the non-commissioned officer in charge, probably Sergeant Bennett at the time, says, Airman Beavers, I got a job for you. I'm thinking, finally, I'm going to show these people how it's done. I'm going to have we need to dig a trench from here to there. And I said, okay, great. I saw this brand new ditch witch. They said, no, we got this 118 tool for you. And he hands me a shovel. That's one man, one shovel, 8 hours.
Oh, gotcha.
So it's doing the work to connect the world. That's what that is.
That's cool. I like that saying. And it's funny because knowledge it's a weird thing, right? The less knowledge you have, the more confident you seem to be. The more knowledge you get, the more you realize you don't know.
That's for sure. Yeah, that's for sure.
So you've been by the way, thank you for your service. So you've been a cable dog, you've been a lineman splicer, right? You've done engineering, you've done you've worked on the BICSI outside plant committee, if I remember correctly, right?
Sure.
You're a BICSI Bass president, right? If you could magically spin back the wheels of time and talk to yourself when you're 18 years old, what would you tell yourself?
Yeah, it's hard to when you're 18 to understand time, because when you're 18 and you have a 20-year-old, 21-year-old friend, you go, man, that dude's old. Like, go 3 years older than me. They have no concept of time and what it takes to, like, imagine it's like, okay, Jeff, you're gonna have X, Y, and Z, but it's gonna take you 20 years. No way. I want the easy way out. Hey, I can remember when I was just prior to me getting out of the Air Force. I got out early so I can go to college, but ended up staying on job as a contractor doing telecommunications. But I can remember, I mean, look, if you're 18 or 19, if you got $20 in your pocket, this could be a great weekend.
Yep.
Right. And then so I would forsake the future for $20 or whatever it is. Right. Or you change jobs for a quarter more, $1 more, whatever it is, instead of staying focused and committed. So I think that the younger me would have valued mentoring. I had no idea what that was. I mean, I probably had what I called bad supervisor, but they were probably just investing in me.
Right.
I can remember when I got out of when I was, what enticed me was I was in a good career field, and I would always see what's happening on the other side of the fence outside the Air Force. And I had this opportunity to leave the Air Force, and I worked for Sumitomo Electric Fiber Optic Company. So I was on the same base, but I just got rid of my uniform, and they had me up. Imagine this, Chuck, at 21 years old, you're getting pretty good pay plus per diem, and they put me up at the Carousel Beach Resort in Fort Walton Beach. I had a sliding door, and there's the beach.
Oh, nice.
Here's a kid that thinks $20 is like the lottery. Now it's there. But then I soon found out that Florida, that job in Florida could be mine out in North Dakota next month as a contractor. And so it's some of those short-term things are fun, but it wears quickly. So anyway, going back to myself as an 18, 19-year-old, be able to quantify 20 years as nothing in your career field. And look, 40, you're still just figuring things out in life, and you're in it for the long haul, and be able to have to value the mentors that tell you that, and listen more and be more, just trust that advice.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer in mentee relationships. I was fortunate enough to have a couple of real good mentors through my career path, and now I was glad to see BICSI start up with their mentor program and stuff. And it's a great thing, because I mean, it's reading it in a book is one thing, but talking to somebody who's actually lived through those pains can save you from making the same mistakes that they did.
Yeah, for sure. They've been through to quote the Princess Bride movie. They've gone through the fire pit, the fire swamp, right? They know where all the obstacles are, and trust me.
Jeff, it's a pleasure having you on, man. Way too long. We started talking about having you on like a year ago or so, I think.
Yeah, we talk about it. Yeah, life happens. We get busy, and by the way, Chuck, you had mentioned I don't know how much time we have. I think you wished that you were not getting so old and not because it's just not getting fun. Am I quoting you right about the industry?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Hey, what used to be like a 20, 25-year long-range plan is now 5.
Yeah.
So you're going to be still be in it because we're already talking about quantum networking, the tactile internet, right? Where you're going to be able to transmit and receive the haptics or the sense of feel. And then we're all going to be, if we're not engaged in the design and maintaining of it, we're going to be users of it. And we're on the verge of remotely performed surgery on the network. And so again, harkens back to that need for competency.
Yeah, you don't want your network going down at that moment, do you?
No. Hey, think about this. I had a crown put on at the dentist office, and I'm looking up, and I'm looking above the ceiling at what's above the ceiling. What does the cabling look like? So now you're going to go to your doctor. Okay, let me see your where'd you go to school? What are your references? And you'll let me look at the telecom room. See how bad the cabling is. If there's going to be latency in this network. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, we'll definitely have to have you back on.
So
And thank you for everything.
Talk
Thank
about.
you for your leadership in this industry, because you've been around, for a while, and you've done a lot for our industry. So I'm speaking for the whole entire industry behind me. Thank you for all the stuff that you've been doing, because sometimes we don't hear that enough.
Hey, Chuck, there's no monopoly on good ideas. It takes us all.
Yep.
Takes us all. So I'm glad to be here. Yeah, we'll definitely do it again. We'll just talk tech.
So what are you doing to become an industry icon? You've seen the interviews. You got to take steps. It doesn't just come to you. You got to put in the 118s. Till next time, knowledge is power.
That's it for this episode of today's podcast. We hope you were able to learn something. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on future content. Also, leave a rating so we can help even more people learn about telecommunications. Until next time, be safe.